She was humiliated the moment she walked into the boxing gym just for her faded t-shirt, worn canvas bag, and bare makeup-free face. VIP class. Looks like they let the help in, one rich girl whispered, the group giggling. The coach glanced at her and said coldly, "Newbies should stay in the shadow corner. Don't even think about sparring." A hot influencer smirked. If she punches the bag, it might break. No one knew that just a few hours later, this same woman they mocked would drop the world champion twice her size with a knockout so clean it left the entire gym in stunned silence. Amanda Brooks stood in the doorway, her canvas bag slung over one shoulder, her old sneakers scuffed and worn. The gym was a palace of glass and steel, all polished floors and high-end gear, the kind of place where people paid thousands to look good while they sweated. Amanda didn't fit in. Her t-shirt was plain white, faded from too many washes, her gym pants loose and basic. Her hair was pulled into a low bun, no makeup, no jewelry, just a quiet beauty that didn't beg for attention. She was 33 with eyes that held stories nobody here cared to hear. The rich girls by the water station, led by Jessica, a fitness model with perfect blonde highlights and a diamond nose stud, kept whispering, their eyes slicing across Amanda's bag like knives. Jessica's giggle was sharp, meant to sting. The head coach, Tony, a wiry guy with a buzz cut and a clipboard, barely glanced at Amanda before pointing to the corner. "Shadowboxing only," he said, his voice flat. Amanda didn't argue. She set her bag down, her hands steady, and started stretching. The air was thick, like a storm was brewing, and Amanda was already in its path. The warm-up kicked off, and the gym came alive with noise ropes, whipping feet, shuffling people showing off for the guest star, Lena Voss, the female world boxing champion. Lena stood by the ring, her braids tight, her red gloves gleaming, her presence commanding. She was there to inspire, but her eyes scanned the room like a hawk, sizing up every move. Amanda kept her head down, her jump rope a blur, her feet moving in a rhythm too smooth for a beginner. Jessica noticed her smile slipping for a split second. How is she not tripping even once? She muttered to her friend Kayla, a brunette in a designer sports bra with a laugh like a hyena. Kayla shrugged, but her eyes narrowed, watching Amanda's shadowboxing jabs, crisp footwork light, like she'd been born in a ring. Tony walked by his clipboard tucked under his arm and stopped. He watched Amanda for a moment, his brow furrowing, then muttered something to another trainer and moved on. The rich girls exchanged glances, their whispers quieter now, but their smirks stayed sharp. The class moved to the heavy bags and the humiliation got uglier. Amanda tied her gloves tight, her fingers steady despite the chatter around her. A guy named Bryce, an influencer with 1 million followers and a neon tank top, sauntered over. Bryce was all about his brand, always filming, always loud. He accidentally knocked Amanda's bag to the floor, letting it land with a thud. "Careful with those hands, don't tear the bag, rookie," he said, his voice carrying across the gym. The room laughed, heads turning, phones coming out. Bryce grinned, holding up his phone to live stream. "Count how many times she misses guys," he said, zooming in on Amanda. She didn't look at him. She stepped up to the bag, her stance low, and started hitting. Her punches were fast, precise, each one landing with a deep thud that made the chain rattle. The bag swung hard, almost wild. Bryce's grin faltered, his phone dipping slightly. A personal trainer named Marcus, lean and quiet, leaned toward Tony and whispered, "That jab's cleaner than most pros I've trained." The gym got quieter, but the tension was thicker, like a wire about to snap. Jessica wasn't about to let it go. She strutted over her ponytail, swinging, and flicked her towel so sweat splattered onto Amanda's gloves. "Oops," she said, her voice dripping with fake sweetness. "You're used to cleaning up, right?" The rich girls behind her cackled, their phones out, snapping pictures. Amanda wiped her gloves on her pants, her face calm, but her eyes sharp, like she was measuring Jessica's every move. "You done?" she asked, her voice low like a door closing. Jessica froze, her laugh catching in her throat, her eyes darting to her friends for backup. The room didn't notice the shift, but it was there, a crack in the ice. Amanda went back to the bag, her punches harder now, each one a statement that echoed through the gym. Kayla leaned toward Jessica, whispering, "She's got some nerve." Jessica's smile was tight, her eyes flicking to Lena Voss, who was watching Amanda with a frown, her arms crossed. The gym was starting to feel like a cage, and Amanda was the one everyone was circling. The cruelty took a new turn during partner drills. Tony paired Amanda with Ethan, a rich kid with a trust fund and a cocky grin that screamed entitlement. Ethan was tall, his gloves brand new, his attitude louder than his punches. "Don't cry if I hit too hard, warehouse girl," he said, loud enough for the whole gym to hear. The room chuckled, phone still out, filming every move. Ethan threw a sloppy jab, expecting Amanda to flinch. She didn't. She slipped the punch, her feet moving like water, and tapped his glove lightly with her own. "Focus," she said, her voice even, like she was teaching a kid to tie their shoes. Ethan's face reddened, and he swung harder, missing again. The laughter turned on him now, but he doubled down. "You're nothing here," he spat, stepping closer, his breath hot. Amanda's eyes met his, unblinking, steady as stone. "Then why are you so mad?" She said her words soft but heavy, like a punch you didn't see coming. The room went quiet for a second, Ethan's jaw tight. Tony blew his whistle, moving them along, but Amanda's words hung in the air, sharp and undeniable. The mockery hit a new low during a water break. A girl named Tara, a fitness influencer with a fake tan and a laugh like a siren, grabbed Amanda's canvas bag and held it up like a trophy. "What's in here? Thrift store specials," she said, shaking it so hard a small, worn photo slipped out. It was Amanda and a man, maybe her dad, standing by a boxing ring, both smiling, their gloves raised. Tara snatched it up, waving it like a flag. "Oh, is this your coach from the dollar store?" The room roared, people crowding around, some filming their flashes bouncing off the glass walls. Amanda's hand twitched, but she stayed still, her face unreadable, her breathing steady. She walked over, her steps slow, and held out her hand. "Give it back," she said, her voice soft but heavy like a warning shot. Tara hesitated, her smirk faltering, then tossed the photo at Amanda's feet, laughing. Amanda picked it up, brushing it off with careful fingers, her eyes never leaving Tara's. "You're not worth it," she said, tucking the photo away. Tara's laugh died, but the room kept going, the air thick with cruelty like a pack closing in. The gym was buzzing when they moved to the speed bags, and the humiliation got personal. A guy named Nate, a wannabe pro with a shaved head and a loud mouth, stepped up next to Amanda. Nate was all ego, always bragging about his connections in the boxing world. He hit the bag with flashy moves, glancing at Amanda like she was a sideshow. "Hey, warehouse girl, you ever even seen a speed bag before?" He said, his voice loud enough to draw eyes. He kept going, his rhythm sloppy but showy. "Bet you'd break your wrist trying." The crowd snickered, some clapping for Nate's performance. Amanda didn't respond. She stepped to her bag, her hands loose, and started hitting. Her rhythm was perfect, fast, steady like a metronome. The bag blurred, the sound sharp and relentless. Nate's hands slowed, his eyes wide, his bag wobbling. "What the hell?" he muttered, stepping back. Amanda didn't look at him. She just kept going, her face calm, her hands a machine. Lena Voss, standing nearby, tilted her head, her eyes narrowing. The room noticed the laughter fading, but the tension was electric. The cruelty escalated when a group of rich kids led by a guy named Connor decided to test Amanda's endurance. Connor was a trust fund baby with a loud laugh and a custom mouthguard that probably cost more than Amanda's rent. He rallied his friends, all in matching designer gear, to surround Amanda during a conditioning drill. "Let's see how long the warehouse girl lasts," he said, tossing a medicine ball at her feet, hard enough to make it bounce. The group formed a circle, passing balls back and forth, deliberately throwing them at Amanda's shins, her arms, her back. "Keep up, rookie," Connor shouted, his friends laughing as Amanda dodged, her face calm but her movements tense. One ball grazed her knee and the crowd hooted. Amanda caught the next one, her grip firm, and tossed it back, her eyes locked on Connor. "This your best," she said, her voice low but cutting. Connor's laugh faltered, but he kept going, the group tightening the circle, their throws harder, the air thick with malice. The humiliation turned vicious when a trainer named Vince, a former pro with a chipped tooth and a grudge against outsiders, singled Amanda out during a footwork drill. Vince was all about his reputation, always barking orders like he was still in the ring. He stopped the class, pointing at Amanda. "You warehouse girl, show us how you move," he said, his voice dripping with scorn. He set up an agility ladder but deliberately misaligned it, the rungs uneven, the tape peeling. "Go," he said, blowing his whistle. The crowd watched, some smirking, others filming. Amanda started her feet quick, but the uneven ladder tripped her and she stumbled, catching herself on one hand. The room erupted in laughter, Vince's voice loudest. "Back to the warehouse, sweetheart," he shouted. Amanda stood, brushing her hands, her face still. "Fix the ladder," she said, her voice clear like a blade. Vince's smirk froze, but the crowd kept laughing, their phones flashing, the moment already spreading online. The mockery reached a new low when a girl named Lauren, a socialite with a perfect manicure and a cruel streak, orchestrated a fake welcome for Amanda. Lauren was all about appearances, always posing for photos with her protein shakes. During a break, she handed Amanda a water bottle, smiling sweetly. "For our new friend," she said loud enough for everyone to hear. The crowd watched, some grinning, as Amanda took the bottle, her fingers pausing on the cap. She opened it, and a stream of glitter poured out, sticking to her hands, her t-shirt, her face. The room exploded in laughter, Lauren clapping like it was a prank show. "Now you're sparkling warehouse girl." She set her phone out, filming. Amanda brushed the glitter off her cheek, her movements slow, her eyes locked on Lauren. "You need this to feel big," she said, her voice soft but heavy. Lauren's smile wavered, but the crowd didn't care, their laughter echoing the glitter, now a cruel badge on Amanda's skin. The bullying hit its peak when a group of influencers led by a guy named Dylan turned Amanda's warm-up stretches into a public spectacle. Dylan was a fitness vlogger with slick hair and a fake tan, always chasing viral moments. He gathered his crew, all with tripods and ring lights, and started a challenge around Amanda. "Let's see if the newbie can stretch like a pro," he said, his voice booming. They mimicked her stretches, exaggerating every move, flopping dramatically to the floor, their laughter loud and rehearsed. "Look, she's stretching like she's lifting boxes," Dylan shouted, his camera rolling. The crowd joined in, some mimicking, others filming. Amanda kept stretching, her movements steady, but her fingers tightened on her ankle. She stood, her eyes sweeping the group. "You're trying too hard," she said, her voice calm but piercing. Dylan's laugh caught his camera dipping, but the crowd kept going, their mockery a wall of noise around her. The final blow came when a veteran member named Carla, a retired fitness coach with a loud voice and a chip on her shoulder, decided to school Amanda during a bag drill. Carla was in her 50s, her arms still strong, her attitude sharper. She walked over, her sneakers squeaking, and stood in front of Amanda's bag. "Let me show you how it's done, warehouse girl," she said, hitting the bag with heavy, showy punches. Then she turned, pointing at Amanda. "Your turn. Don't embarrass yourself." The crowd gathered, phones out, waiting for a flop. Amanda stepped up, her gloves tight, and unleashed a flurry of punches, fast, precise, each one shaking the bag. Carla's jaw dropped, but she recovered, scoffing. "Beginner's luck," she said loud enough for everyone. She grabbed Amanda's glove, twisting it. "Fix your form," she snapped, but her voice was shaky. Amanda pulled her hand free, her eyes steady. "My form's fine," she said, her words soft but final. The crowd laughed, but it was nervous now. Carla's face red as Amanda went back to the bag, her punches louder than their jeers. The class shifted to mitt work, and the cruelty turned coordinated. Tony called Amanda to the center, pairing her with Rachel, a former college athlete with toned muscles and a sneer that could cut glass. Rachel was part of Jessica's crew, always ready to one-up anyone. "Let's see what the newbies got," Rachel said, holding the mitts high, her voice mocking. She moved fast, jerking the mitts unpredictably, trying to trip Amanda up. "Too slow, warehouse girl," she shouted, the room laughing. Amanda didn't flinch. Her punches landed clean, each one a thud that made Rachel's arms shake. Rachel's smirk faded, her wrists buckling slightly. "Hit harder," Amanda said, her voice low like a coach. Rachel's face reddened, and she dropped the mitts, storming off. Tony stepped in, his eyes darting to Amanda, then away. "Switch partners," he said, but his voice was uneasy. The crowd whispered, some impressed, others annoyed. Amanda's presence was starting to shift the room, but the knives were still out. The humiliation peaked during a break when Kayla, the brunette with the designer sports bra, started a group chat right in front of Amanda. Kayla was all about status, always name-dropping brands she wore. She held up her phone, typing loudly, her voice carrying. "Guys, let's vote who's the worst dressed in the gym. My vote's for the thrift store queen." The rich girls laughed, their phones pinging as they joined in. Kayla showed the screen to Jessica, who added, "She's probably here on a charity pass." The room was watching now, some pretending not to hear, others grinning. Amanda was retying her sneakers, her fingers pausing for a second, then moving again. She stood, her canvas bag at her feet, and looked at Kayla. "You need a vote to feel better," she said, her voice soft but clear, like a bell in fog. Kayla's fingers froze on her phone, her laugh dying. The room went quiet, the group chat forgotten. Amanda picked up her bag and walked to the water fountain, her steps steady, her silence louder than their noise. The gym was a powder keg when they moved to the ring for mock sparring. Tony set Amanda up against 3 pro girls, Jessica, Kayla, and Rachel, back to back, clearly trying to break her. "Let's see how long she lasts," Tony said, his voice cold, his clipboard nowhere in sight. The crowd gathered, phones out, jeering like they were at a coliseum. Jessica went first, throwing exaggerated punches, her ponytail bouncing. "Run home, rookie," She shouted her jabs wild. Amanda ducked, blocked, and countered with a hook that sent Jessica stumbling into the ropes. The crowd gasped, phones shaking. Kayla was next, her punches desperate, her face red. "You're nothing," she screamed. Amanda slipped her jab and dropped her with a clean cross, Kayla hitting the mat hard. Rachel lasted longest, her athletic training showing, but Amanda's uppercut was surgical, sending Rachel down. The gym was silent now, phones lowering, faces pale. Amanda didn't gasp or sweat. She just stood there, gloves up, calm as stone. Tony stepped in, his face pale, his voice shaking. "Okay, that's enough," he said, waving his hands. But Derek Holt, the male world champion, was leaning against the ropes, his arms like tree trunks, his smirk wide. Derek was a giant, his presence sucking the air out of the room. He'd been quiet until now, watching Amanda with a mix of amusement and arrogance. "If she's so confident, let her try one round with me," he said, his laugh booming across the gym. The crowd erupted, cheering, some chanting Derek. Derek. Lena Voss, the female champion, frowned, her eyes flicking to Tony. "This isn't right," she muttered, but the noise drowned her out. Amanda didn't flinch. She adjusted her gloves, her fingers slow and deliberate, and stepped back into the ring. The crowd pressed closer, phones up, ready for a slaughter. Amanda stood there, her stance low, her eyes locked on Derek's. The bell rang and the gym held its breath. Derek came out swinging his hooks heavy, his grin wider than ever. Amanda dodged the first, her feet light, her body swaying like she'd danced this dance 1,000 times. The crowd was screaming, but she didn't hear it. She slipped the second hook, her head moving just enough, and threw a cross fast and sharp, catching Derek's jaw. He staggered, his eyes wide, his smirk gone. Amanda didn't pause. She followed with a hook, then an uppercut, each punch clean, precise like a painter's brush. Derek hit the mat hard, his gloves limp, his eyes glassy. The gym went silent, phones frozen in the air, mouths open. Amanda stepped back, her breathing steady, her face calm. Derek's trainer rushed in, waving smelling salts, but Derek was out cold. Amanda untied her gloves, her movements slow, and set them on the ropes. The silence was deafening, the truth sinking in like a stone. The silence broke when a young trainer named Sam, barely out of his teens, dropped his water bottle, the clatter echoing in the stunned gym. He'd been quiet all class, always in the background, but now his eyes were wide, fixed on Amanda. He scrambled to pick up the bottle, his hands shaking, and whispered to Marcus. I knew her form was too good. Sam pulled out his phone, not to film, but to show a grainy video, an old match Amanda in a ring. Her gloves raised, her opponent down. "That's her," he said, his voice low but clear. The crowd leaned in, some gasping, as the video played Amanda's younger face, fierce, her punches relentless. Amanda didn't look at the phone. She adjusted her canvas bag, her fingers brushing the worn strap, her face calm but her eyes bright. The room was shifting, the mockery replaced by whispers of awe, the truth spreading like wildfire. A woman named Maria, a gym receptionist who'd watched the whole class from the front desk, stepped forward, her apron still tied, her hands clasped. Maria was older, her hair graying, her voice soft but steady. She held a small folded piece of paper, a note Amanda had left at sign-up, thanking the gym for the trial pass. "She wrote this," Maria said, holding it up, her voice trembling. Said she just wanted to box again. The crowd was silent, some looking down, others nodding. Maria walked to Amanda, her eyes wet, and handed her the note. "You didn't deserve what they did," she said. Amanda took the paper, her fingers careful, and tucked it into her bag. "Nobody does," she said, her voice soft but heavy like a promise. The room felt smaller now, the air thick with respect, the truth of Amanda's heart laid bare. The tension cracked when a phone pinged loud and sharp from the crowd. It was Bryce's, and he fumbled to silence it, his face pale. The screen lit up with a notification, a news alert, the headline flashing, "Elite Gym, shamed viral video, exposes bullying of former champion." The article quoted Dylan's vlog, Lauren's glitter prank, Connor's medicine ball stunt, all now trending with millions of views. The crowd gasped, some pulling out their phones, scrolling frantically. Jessica's hands shook as she saw her own name in the comments, her brand deal already crumbling. Kayla's face went white, her group chat exposed in screenshots. Amanda didn't look at the phones. She slung her bag over her shoulder, her steps steady, her face calm. Lena Voss caught her eye, nodding slightly like they shared a secret. The room was unraveling, but Amanda stood tall, her silence a force of its own. Frank, the head coach, took the center of the ring, his voice hoarse but firm. He held up a folder, Amanda's old fight records pulled from an archive he'd dug up in the office. She was undefeated, he said, his hands shaking as he flipped through pages. Took a hit to the shoulder, retired to heal, and came back, as one of us. He tossed the folder onto the mat pages, scattering each one a testament to Amanda's past. The crowd was silent, some stepping back, others staring at the papers like they were relics. Carla's face crumpled, her beginner's luck comment now a bitter memory. Nate's mouth opened, then closed, his bravado gone. Amanda didn't look at the papers. She adjusted her sneakers, her movements slow like she was above the chaos. Frank's voice broke. "We failed her," he said. The truth hung heavy, the gym a mirror reflecting their shame. The final moment came when Lena Voss climbed into the ring, her gloves off her face, fierce but warm. She faced the crowd, her voice cutting through the whispers. "This gym was built for fighters," she said, her eyes sweeping the room. Amanda's the only one who showed that today. She turned to Amanda, still by the ropes, and extended her hand. "You lead this class now," she said, her voice a command and a plea. Amanda paused, her bag over her shoulder, her eyes meeting Lena's. She shook her hand, her grip firm, and nodded. "For the fighters," she said, her voice soft but clear like a vow. The crowd watched, some in awe, some in shame, as Amanda stepped forward, her presence filling the ring. The gym was hers now, not by force but by truth, her strength a beacon in the silence. The head coach, Frank, pushed through the crowd, his face ashen, his hands shaking. He grabbed Amanda's sign-up form from the desk, his eyes scanning it like it held a secret code. "Amanda Brooks," he said, his voice breaking, cracking the silence. "Former boxing champion. Retired after an injury. And came back as a civilian." He tore the paper in half, his hands trembling, his eyes wet. The crowd gasped, some stepping back, others whispering, their phones now useless. Jessica's face went white, her phone slipping from her hand, clattering to the floor. Bryce stopped filming, his mouth open, his neon tank top suddenly looking childish. Tara's laugh died in her throat, her eyes glued to the floor. Amanda didn't look at them. She picked up her canvas bag, slung it over her shoulder, and started for the door. The room parted for her like she was a queen walking through a crowd of peasants. Nobody dared speak. Lena Voss stepped forward, her red gloves off her face, serious but warm. She held out her hand to Amanda, her voice steady, cutting through the stunned silence. "You're the strongest fighter I've ever met," she said, her eyes locked on Amanda's. "This class now officially starts with you." Amanda paused, her eyes meeting Lena's, and shook her hand, her grip firm, her face calm, but her eyes bright. The crowd was still silent, some nodding, others looking away, their confidence shattered. Derek was on his feet now, his trainer holding him up, his face red with embarrassment. He stumbled over, his voice hoarse, and extended his hand. "Respect," he said, his eyes down. Amanda nodded, shaking his hand, her movement slow like she was closing a chapter. The gym was different now, the air heavy with awe, the mockery gone, replaced by something real. The apologies came fast, but they were clumsy, desperate. Jessica was first, her highlights dull under the gym's harsh lights, her voice shaky. "Amanda, I didn't know," she said, her hands twisting, her nose stud catching the light. Amanda looked at her, her gaze steady, unyielding. "You didn't care to," she said, her voice soft but final, like a door locking. Jessica stepped back, her face crumpling, her phone forgotten. Kayla tried next, her designer sports bra looking cheap in the moment. "Can you teach me that hook?" she asked, her voice small, almost childlike. Amanda didn't stop walking. "Learn respect first," she said, her words cutting clean. Bryce approached, his phone off his face, pale, his bravado gone. "I'll delete the video," he stammered, his hands shaking. Amanda didn't look at him. "Too late," she said, and kept going. The crowd watched, some whispering, others silent. Their phones now pocketed, their laughter a distant memory. Frank caught up to Amanda at the door, his clipboard gone, his voice low, almost pleading. "We want you to coach here," he said, his eyes wide, his hands open like he was offering the world. "Name your price." Amanda paused, her hand on the door, her canvas bag swinging lightly at her side. "I didn't come here for money," she said, her voice calm like she was stating a fact. "I came to box." She pushed the door open, the sunlight spilling in, bathing her in gold. She stepped outside, her sneakers quiet on the pavement, her bag bouncing against her hip. The gym was buzzing again, but it was different now, people talking about her, not mocking but marveling. Lena started the class, her voice loud, calling out drills, but her eyes kept flicking to the door like she was waiting for Amanda to come back. Derek sat on a bench, his head down, his trainer muttering about underestimating. The rich kids were quiet, their phones away, their confidence shattered. The fallout was swift, quiet, but brutal. Bryce's live stream got him banned from the gym. His followers turned on him after the knockout went viral, calling him a bully. Jessica's fitness brand dropped her as an ambassador, their statement citing poor sportsmanship and linking to the video of her mocking Amanda. Tara's influencer deal with a sports drink company fell through her video, waving Amanda's photo, now a public relations nightmare. Ethan's trust fund friends stopped inviting him to parties. His warehouse girl comment replayed in group chats, his reputation in tatters. Kayla's gym membership was under review, her posts about the class deleted, but screenshots lived on, shared by strangers who saw the truth. It wasn't loud or dramatic, not like in the movies. It was just reality, catching up like a punch you didn't see coming, landing clean and hard. Amanda didn't comment on any of it. She didn't need to. Her silence was louder than their apologies. Amanda didn't go back to the gym the next day. She was at the warehouse lifting crates, her t-shirt damp with sweat, her hair still in a low bun. The warehouse was loud, forklifts, beeping radios crackling, but it was her world, steady and real. A coworker, an older guy named Joe with a gray beard and a limp, showed her a video on his phone, the knockout now trending with millions of views. "That's you, ain't it?" he said, grinning, his eyes bright. Amanda glanced at the screen, her face calm, her hand still on a crate. "Yeah," she said, and went back to work, her movements smooth like nothing had changed. Joe laughed, shaking his head, his voice warm. "You showed him, kid?" Amanda didn't smile, but her shoulders were lighter, like she'd set down a weight she'd carried too long. The warehouse kept moving, and so did she, steady as ever. A week later, Amanda walked into a community center, her canvas bag over her shoulder, her sneakers quiet on the linoleum floor. She'd started a free boxing class for kids using her own money for gloves, pads, and a small ring. The kids were a mix, some loud, some shy, some with shoes as worn as hers. They crowded around her, their gloves too big, their eyes wide. Amanda showed them how to stand, how to punch, her voice calm but firm, like she was passing down something sacred. "It's not about hitting," she said, her eyes sweeping the room, meeting every pair of eyes. "It's about standing up." The kids nodded, their faces bright, their punches clumsy but eager. Parents watched from folding chairs, some whispering about the viral video, others just grateful for a place their kids could go. Amanda didn't talk about the gym, the champion, or the fame. She talked about footwork, about heart, about keeping your guard up. The community center was alive with noise, kids laughing, gloves thudding, Amanda's voice cutting through it all. One kid, a skinny boy named Miguel with a chipped tooth, dropped his gloves after a drill, his face red. Amanda knelt beside him, her hands steady, adjusting his stance. "You don't quit," she said, her voice low, like a secret. "You rest, then you go again." Miguel nodded, his eyes wet but determined, and raised his gloves. The other kids watched, their punches sharper now, like they'd caught her fire. Amanda stood, her canvas bag by the ring, the worn photo of her and her dad tucked inside. She didn't need to look at it. She felt him there in the way she moved, the way she taught. The room was small, the walls peeling, but it was hers, built from sweat and truth. The story spread not because Amanda wanted it to, but because people needed it. Older folks, the ones who'd been looked down on their whole lives, saw her and felt seen. The ones who'd been called weak, slow, or out of place, they got it. They'd been in rooms like that gym, surrounded by smirks, judged for their clothes, their jobs, their quiet. They'd kept going too, just like Amanda. Her story wasn't about the knockout, though. That's what the videos showed. It was about the warehouse shifts, the worn sneakers, the kids she taught for free. It was about standing up when the world bets you'll fall. Amanda didn't know how many shared her story, how many felt stronger because of it. She was too busy lifting crates, teaching jabs, living her truth. Some nights Amanda would pause at the community center, her gloves off, the kids gone home. She'd look at the drawings they'd taped to the wall, messy sketches of gloves, rings, and her always smiling. She'd fought for them, for herself, for the ones who'd never get a spotlight. The world had tried to break her, but it didn't. She wasn't wrong to stay quiet, to let her fists talk. She wasn't alone in her fight, not anymore. And now she was building something new, one punch at a time. Where are you watching from? Leave a comment below and hit follow to walk with me through heartbreak, betrayal, and finally healing.